Disabled, ugly alien dragon, Hatchling learns to fly with the help of the human mechanic. Beginning, the Hatchling and the mechanic. The sky of Orenthar was painted with 3 suns, their overlapping light casting a shimmering glow across the crystalline mountains. Orenthar was known throughout the galaxy as a homeworld of the Draxi, an ancient race of dragon-like beings, revered for their immense power and grace. The Draxi were living legends, their scales radiant, their wings vast, their fire capable of searing even the strongest alloy. To hatch as a Draxi was to be destined for greatness. Except for him. In the darkest corner of the hatchery cavern, a single egg cracked and split to reveal a creature unlike the others. His wings were shriveled, bent at unnatural angles. His scales were a patchwork of dull gray rather than shimmering with cosmic hues like his siblings. His horns grew crooked, curling into awkward spirals. And when he tried to let out a hatchling's first roar, all that came was a pitiful rasp. The elder Draxi looked upon him with pity and disdain. Ugly, broken, they murmured, their voices like rolling thunder. They named him Kryn, but in whispers, many called him the Wingless One. While the other hatchlings learned to leap into the skies, Kryn could only stumble across the cavern floor. Every attempt to flap his wings left him collapsed in pain. The Draxi believed that flight was not merely a skill but a birthright, a connection to the cosmos. A Draxi who could not fly was no Draxi at all. And so, Kryn grew up hidden, a shameful secret. But fate had other plans. Far away, on the fringes of Orenthar's mountains, lived a human, Mara Elin, a starship mechanic who had been stranded after her vessel crash-landed on the world. Mara was not like the Draxi. Where they saw weakness, she saw possibility. Where they discarded, she repaired. One evening, while scavenging metal shards near the hatchery cliffs, Mara stumbled upon Kryn. He was huddled alone, his broken wings quivering, his stomach growling with hunger, his golden eyes locked on hers, wide with fear but also curiosity. Instead of fleeing, Mara crouched down and whispered, "Hey there, little one, you're not so scary." Kryn hissed weakly, but when Mara placed a piece of dried ration bread on the ground, he sniffed and devoured it. From that night onward, Mara began visiting him. She fed him scraps, cleaned his scales where they cracked, and even tinkered with small metal frames to brace his twisted wings. Kryn followed her everywhere after that, limping on awkward legs, his crooked horns bobbing as he went. The other Draxi mocked him relentlessly. "You will never fly," they jeered. "You are a disgrace." But Mara would look at him and smile. "We'll prove them wrong. Kryn, you and me." Middle, the dream of flight. Years passed. Kryn grew larger, though still smaller than his kin. His wings remained mangled. But under Mara's care, he learned to glide short distances with mechanical assistance. Mara had built a workshop in the wreckage of her old starship. It was filled with scraps of metal tools and half-finished machines. Kryn loved to curl up inside, watching her work with fascination. His favorite contraption was the wing harness Mara was designing just for him. "This will give you lift," Mara explained one night, tightening the alloy joints. "Not natural flight, but close. Think of it like training wheels." Kryn tilted his head, not fully understanding her words, but his heart swelled with hope. He dreamed of soaring above the crystalline peaks, his shadow stretching across the valleys below. He dreamed of hearing his siblings gasp in shock as the broken one rose higher than any of them. But the journey was not easy. The first attempt was a disaster. Mara strapped a harness onto Kryn, its mechanical wings unfolding with a hiss of steam. He leapt from the workshop cliff, flapping with all his might. For a few glorious seconds, he was airborne, then the left joint jammed. The harness spun, and Kryn tumbled down into the valley, crashing through crystal trees until he landed in a painful heap. Mara scrambled down, panic etched on her face. "Kryn, are you hurt?" The dragon whimpered. His broken wings splayed awkwardly. Shame burned hotter than pain. He turned his head away, tears welling in his golden eyes. "I'll never fly," he rasped in a guttural growl. "Never." But Mara knelt beside him, resting her oil-stained hand against his snout. "Hey, failure isn't the end. It's how we learn. We'll fix it. Together." And so they did. Attempt after attempt. Crash after crash. Mara adjusted the harness, reinforcing the joints, balancing the weight, tuning the wing flaps to Kryn's rhythm. She taught him patience, focus, and persistence. He, in turn, taught her resilience and trust. Their bond grew unbreakable. Where the Draxi saw an ugly cripple, Mara saw a companion with fire in his heart. Yet not everyone was pleased. The Draxi elders began to notice Kryn's strange flights. They accused Mara of interfering in sacred matters. "You defy nature," one elder thundered, his wings casting shadows over her workshop. The broken one was not meant to fly. You insult our traditions. Mara stood firm, grease on her cheek and a wrench in her hand. Maybe your traditions are wrong. Maybe strength isn't about perfection. It's about fighting to rise no matter how many times you fall. The elder scoffed. When the sky trial comes, the hatchlings will prove themselves in the great ascent. The broken one will fail, and your tinkering will be forgotten. The sky trial, a legendary test where young Draxi launched themselves into the stratosphere, competing to reach the highest altitude. It was both a rite of passage and a judgment of worth. For Kryn, it was a chance to prove himself, or to fall once and for all. Climax. The great ascent. The day of the sky trial dawned. The entire Draxi clan gathered at the edge of the soaring cliffs. The air buzzed with anticipation as dozens of young dragons stretched their perfect wings. Their scales glimmered with cosmic light, their roars echoing across the valleys. And then came Kryn. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The ugly hatchling had grown, yes, but his crooked horns and dull scales still set him apart. Worse, he wore Mara's mechanical harness, gleaming with alien metal. To the Draxi, it was blasphemy. You don't belong here, one sibling sneered. But Kryn stepped forward, golden eyes blazing. I belong, he growled, voice shaking with determination. The trial began. One by one, dragons leapt from the cliffs, their wings catching the currents as they soared upward. The sky shimmered with their flight. Finally, it was Kryn's turn. Mara tightened the last strap on his harness, her hands trembling. Remember, trust the wings. Trust yourself. No matter what they say, you're more than enough. Kryn lowered his head, pressing his snout gently against her shoulder in silent gratitude. Then, with a deep breath, he leapt. For a moment, the wind tore past him, threatening to drag him down. But then, whoosh! The mechanical wings unfolded, catching the air. Kryn flapped, every muscle straining. The harness whirred, pistons pumping, and slowly, impossibly, he rose. The crowd erupted in shock. Higher and higher he climbed, his crooked body straining against gravity. His siblings darted past him, sleek and swift, but Kryn refused to falter. Each beat of his wings was a defiance, each gust of air beneath him a triumph. But then disaster struck. A rival sibling, furious at Kryn's audacity, clipped him midair with a cruel swipe. The impact jarred the harness, snapping one joint. The mechanical wing sputtered, sending Kryn into a deadly spiral. Gasps and laughter mixed below. He was never meant to fly. Mara's heart pounded. She screamed from the cliffs. Kryn, listen to me. It's not the harness. It's you. Trust your wings. Kryn's mind whirled. The harness was broken. The air roared around him. He could either fall or try. Closing his eyes, Kryn spread his mangled wings wide. Pain lanced through him, but then something shifted. For the first time, he felt the currents. The wind caught his twisted wings. Awkward yet real. He flapped once, twice, jerky and perfect, but enough. The spiral steadied. His body lifted. The crowd went silent. With a roar that shook the skies, Kryn surged upward. Harness half broken, wings crooked but flying. Higher he climbed, higher than his siblings, until the three suns themselves glared in his eyes. At the peak of the ascent, he spread his wings fully, triumphant, ending a new legend. When Kryn landed back on the cliffs, the silence was deafening. The elders stared, their pride shaken. Never had they seen such a sight. The broken hatchling, soaring higher than the flawless. One elder finally spoke, voice grudging with awe. Perhaps flight is not perfection of form. Perhaps it is perfection of spirit. The Draxi bowed their heads in reluctant respect. Kryn was no longer the wingless one. He was Skybreaker, the dragon who defied fate. But to him, the true victory was not their acceptance. It was the sight of Mara rushing forward, tears in her eyes, whispering, You did it, Kryn. You really did it. He lowered his great head, pressing it against her once more. For though the Draxi called him legend, he knew the truth. He had learned to fly not because of his wings, but because someone had believed in him when no one else did. And so the ugly, disabled hatchling became the first of a new kind of Draxi, proof that strength comes not from beauty or perfection, but from courage, resilience, and the bonds we forge. High above the crystalline mountains, Kryn soared again, this time not alone, but with Mara riding on his back. Together, they carved their path across the skies, mechanic and dragon, dreamer and outcast, rewriting the legends of Orenthar one flight at a time.